June 26, 1943. 23-year-old Second Lieutenant Robert Samuel Johnson gripped the control stick of his P-47C Thunderbolt, flying tail-end Charlie at 28,000 feet as 48 fighters of the 56th Fighter Group crossed the English Channel. Moments earlier, their B-17 bombers had struck Villaroche Airfield near Paris. Johnson, an Oklahoma farm boy turned combat pilot, had only recently scored his first victory. The son of a Depression-era mechanic, he'd earned his pilot's license at 16 by saving every penny he could. Now he sat behind one of the largest, heaviest single-engine fighters ever built. 7 tons of aluminum and fury, powered by a 2,000-horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine and a 13-foot propeller that could tear through the sky at over 400 miles an hour. Then the sky exploded. 16 Focke-Wulf 190s from Jagdgeschwader 26, one of Germany's elite fighter wings, dove out of the sun. Cannon shells ripped through Johnson's fuselage. The canopy shattered, hydraulic lines burst, and fluid sprayed across his eyes. A round creased his nose. His right leg burned from shrapnel. The engine caught fire. He tried to bail out, but the canopy was jammed, blasted half shut. The flames miraculously died as fuel pressure failed, leaving him half blind in a crippled machine that had taken more than 20 direct cannon hits and over 200 machine gun strikes. Any other fighter would have fallen apart. Somehow, Johnson's Thunderbolt kept flying. That day, German pilots learned something they couldn't explain. No matter how many times they hit this American fighter, it refused to go down. To them, the P-47 was a paradox, an aircraft that defied every law of design. Where German engineers built sleek, agile machines like the Bf-109 and FW-190, the Americans had built a brute, a flying tank. The Thunderbolt embodied a different philosophy: survivability over elegance, strength over speed. The mastermind behind it was Alexander Kartveli, a Georgian-born engineer who immigrated to America in 1927 and joined Republic Aviation. His design broke every pre-war convention. The P-47 weighed nearly twice as much as its German rivals. Its heart was the massive R2800 engine, but its soul was armor and redundancy. The fuselage was built like a fortress: multiple spars, thick aluminum skin, and overlapping systems so that if one cable or spar failed, another took over. Its fuel tanks were self-sealing, made of layered rubber that swelled on contact with gasoline, instantly closing bullet holes. Its pilot sat in what crews called an armored bathtub, surrounded by steel plates and bulletproof glass capable of stopping 20-millimeter cannon shells. To the Luftwaffe, it was madness. To American pilots, it was salvation. Johnson's story proved it. After the first attack shredded his controls, his P-47 spiraled toward the earth. Half blind, he fought the stick until he leveled out. As he limped toward England, a lone FW-190 closed in. The German ace, likely Oberleutnant Egon Mayer, had exhausted his cannon rounds but continued to rake Johnson's fighter with machine gun fire, making multiple passes. Johnson fired back blindly, unable to aim. Mayer emptied his ammunition, then, realizing the Thunderbolt still refused to fall, pulled alongside, saluted, and banked away. Johnson made it home, landing on sheer willpower. His P-47 had taken 21 cannon hits and dozens of bullet strikes. Ground crews stared in disbelief. The aircraft was wrecked, but Johnson walked away. 5 days later, he was back in the air. By May 1944, Johnson had 27 confirmed kills, making him one of America's top aces, and his aircraft's toughness had changed how the Allies fought. Reports from the 56th Fighter Group showed that Thunderbolt pilots could absorb punishment that would destroy any other plane. They could press attacks longer, fly through enemy fire, and protect bombers instead of breaking away. German tactics, based on hit-and-run slashing attacks, failed. The Thunderbolt could take the first blow and keep coming. its 850 caliber Browning machine guns, firing 1,200 rounds per minute, chewed through German fighters that couldn't match its resilience, captured P-47s shipped to Germany, baffled Luftwaffe engineers. They found thicker materials, extra fasteners, backup control cables, and overlapping load paths, features that violated every rule of German aircraft design. Their reports captured the painful truth. The American design is inefficient by our standards, but devastatingly effective. Their pilots survived to fly again. We built fighters to win dogfights. They built fighters to win wars. That truth demoralized the Luftwaffe. Pilots complained they could hit Thunderbolts again and again, watch them smoke, yet see them keep flying. German ace Gerhard Barkhorn, with 301 victories, later said, "On the Eastern Front, a few hits brought a kill. Against Thunderbolts, you fired everything you had, and they still came at you." By late 1943, Luftwaffe Command was forced to issue orders. Warning pilots not to assume smoke or fire meant a Thunderbolt was finished. Entire wings wasted ammunition trying to down a single P-47, leaving them defenseless when other Americans arrived. When the Allied bombing campaign intensified, the P-47 became the shield of the 8th Air Force. Its toughness gave bomber crews the protection they needed to strike deep into Germany. In Operation Big Week, February 1944, Thunderbolts escorted thousands of bombers into the heart of the Reich, destroying over 500 German fighters in 6 days while losing less than 1% of their own. The Luftwaffe's elite was shattered. That summer, the P-47 found a new role: ground attack. Its durability made it ideal for strafing trains, tanks, and convoys. German troops came to dread its roaring radial engine, calling it the Jabo, short for Jagdbomber. Pilots joked that a Thunderbolt only needed 3 things to fly: half its cylinders, 1 working aileron, and a pilot brave enough to take it up. Stories abounded of Thunderbolts returning with holes large enough to walk through. One pilot, Robert Harmon, flew 150 miles home on an engine running on 16 of 18 cylinders after losing his wingtip and tail controls. By 1945, over 1,600 Thunderbolts had been built, the most of any U.S. fighter except the P-51 Mustang. They flew 546,000 combat sorties and destroyed over 7,000 enemy aircraft. The loss rate was the lowest of any American fighter. Just 7 aircraft per 1,000 sorties. That meant thousands of American pilots who came home because their machines refused to die. Even the Germans, after the war, admitted their respect. General Adolf Galland called it the most unkillable aircraft of the war. Ace Johannes Steinhoff wrote, "We flew elegant killers. The Americans flew armored fortresses, and in the end, their fortresses won." The legacy of the Thunderbolt lived on. Its design philosophy, redundancy, protection, pilot survival, shaped every post-war U.S. fighter, from the F-86 Sabre to the A-10 Thunderbolt Secudu, which carried its name and spirit. When Colonel Hubert Zemke, commander of the 56th Fighter Group, addressed a reunion in 1961, he said it best: "We didn't fly the fastest or the prettiest fighter. We flew the one that brought us home." When you're 23 years old and 6 miles above Germany, that's all that matters. The P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't just an airplane, it was a promise. A promise that no pilot would be abandoned to luck or fragility. A promise that American engineering would trade elegance for endurance. It was a juggernaut in the truest sense, unkillable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. And for the men who flew it, the Thunderbolt wasn't just a machine, it was life itself.